Greetings, YouTube. Today I would like to share a poem that was recently shared to me by my grandmother, and it really spoke to me, so I wanted to share it this week. This is a less formal video, but more of an expository video. I want you guys to really think about this and see what you can get out of it. I would recommend rereading it a few times. I really look at what he's saying here before I give you my thoughts on the poem. So let's take a look at it. So this is called On Children by Kahlil Gibran, and I'll read it. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable." Now, I would like to point out that in this version right here on Google, for some reason it's not written exactly how he wrote it, and the only thing that's wrong is that after mentioning the archer, it says he bends his might. This is all capitalized, showing that he's referring to God. So let's go back to the beginning, and I'll show you my thoughts, but I would recommend going back and thinking about it on your own first. So this poem, starts off with a woman, and it appears to be she's talking to God, or whoever, somebody, and she asked to speak about children while she's holding her child. And this person says that the children are not necessarily owned by the parents, but they're a continuation of life. They're the product of life, and they come through the parents. The parents are just a vessel to continue life onward, and these children carry on life. So then the next stanza says how you may give them your love, not your thoughts. They have their own thoughts, but you may not house their souls, and their souls are somewhere else. So it's basically saying that yes, the parents will raise them, and they'll take care of them and they'll love them, but they cannot force their thoughts and their opinions and everything that they are onto the kids. The kids will be their own. They have their own thoughts, and their souls are housed, and their souls are their own. And it's really up to life, not the parents, about who the kids are. And the children, they have their own thoughts, and their future is undecided. So the parents should not try to make their destiny, like kind of saying how their souls are their own and they belong in the future. The parents shouldn't give them their own thoughts, their own destiny. It's up to the child and up to the chance of life to do that. Now the next stanza talks about how the parents cannot visit these children's souls. Um, and it's saying how, basically continuing how they can't go and change them how they want, because it's their own souls, They can't go to the house of tomorrow, aka the future, because that's up to the chance of life. So I interpret it as you can't give them their own destiny. Now this part I like as well. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. I thought it was very interesting that he said you may strive to be like them, because you see people always say how it's backwards, how the children always strive to be like the parents, yet here he's talking about a different perspective, the parents trying to be like the children, which is very unorthodox. I thought that was very interesting. But seek not to make them like you. Now, obviously we know what this means, saying not to turn them into many me's, or force them to fit your mold, allow them to be themselves, who they are, have their own thoughts, have their own souls, their own destiny, and their own character, and just their own, because as we see, they come through you, not from you. So they're just a product of life, your continuing life, and they have their own life. It says, for life goes backward, for life goes not backward. So it's saying how I interpret it as, we're not just going to repeat the same thing where the generation that you're giving birth to is going to be exactly like you, because that's just a repeat of the past. And that's what I took from that, saying how they're new, and with new times come new people, new perspectives. So next stanza, this is where it gets very interesting. You are the bows, talking to the mother now, right? Remember, we were always talking to the mother, but it's saying you as in the mother, saying you are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. And I like this because it's a great analogy, how it's showing how the parents are a vessel, sending their life, their children's life forward, allowing them to launch on their own. And the arrows are the children, kind of how an arrow goes through something. That's kind of how I took it, like through you, not from you. They're the children of the arrows going through things. And then the archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might. So remember I said he was capitalized, indicating that this is God, indicating that the archer is God. So it's saying here that God is in control, right? And he's using the parents to send forth the children, saying that God is what pushes life onwards. I actually really love the use of the whole bow and arrow analogy here, and how it extends to the archer. You can see the hierarchy and how it's very dynamic, how everything works. I thought it was very interesting. And this would kind of coincide, depending if you are religious, with how the parents do not decide their destinies, which I took from this, but God does. He sees the path, and then he bends the bow, which is you, to send the arrows forth. So that his arrows may go swift and far, aka the path of the children continuing life forward. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. So this part must be reassuring the mother that, because we've been saying, kind of dogging on her the whole time, being like, they're just using you, you're just a continuation of life forward. But he's saying now that, yes, it's all about the children, pushing them forward, and, you don't control the children, but he's saying how valuable the bow is now, because without the bow, the archer would not be able to send the arrows as he wished. So the parent's role is extremely important. And it's telling the bow to be glad, to be grateful to have the opportunity to let these arrows fly, to let these kids flourish. And he says he loves the bow that is stable. And that's very important as well. Stable parents allowing kids to grow. So if you don't have parents that allow the kids to grow, that's not good. So it's saying how they value quality parents that will allow these arrows to fly. Stable parents that allow these arrows to fly. It supports the children in the life, and it allows for life to continue positively forward rather than hurting the generation below you. You want to have good parents. You want to be a good parent to let the kids go on and fly straight towards their target, rather than fall short or overshoot or anything else that may happen. So this was a poem that I really loved, and that's my kind of short, very short synopsis on it. I could go on for a while about this poem because it is so wonderful. And this is just an analysis. Then you could talk about applications into your own life and all sorts of things. But I'm going to leave you to do that on your own, because I trust that by now you would have found interest in this and seen how beautifully written this is. But Gibran is, he has a lot of interesting things like this. His poems, he has poem books where all the poems will be written, like, for example, this one's on children, and then they might have, as you see here, on marriage, on joy and sorrow, on this, on that. It'll be a compilation of all his poems that say on this, so talking about a certain topic. Or they have ones that are to, so like to somebody, to whatever. They're very interesting. I would highly recommend reading this man. I have recently started to fall in love with his work, and it all started with this poem, and that's what I wanted to share this week. Something that is just beautiful and a very great introduction to a whole world of ideas, not even just about this poem, but about this writer. And maybe you get further inspired by that, but I encourage you to go back and look on this poem and think about it. So that's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm sorry if this video was a little bit long, but I hope it was worth it. And I love you all. I really do. And I hope that everything goes well for you. And enjoy your summer. I hope it's a good one. Rock on, everybody.